Howdy, mates. Good afternoon. Timothy Wells here. This is week 2 of our virtual book club. We're talking about Julia Cameron's The Artist Way. Last week, we started off talking about the basic tools, which are the morning pages, and the artist date. And hopefully, you've been practicing those. I have not been as consistent with the morning pages as I would have liked. I did take some artist dates, though, this week. Um, those are the basic tools that she recommends you get started. And the first chapter, which we kind of talked about last week, but I'm going to talk about again in more detail um, because her 12-week program is a foundation where you're building this whole structure. And the first week is the foundation. And if you don't build a strong foundation as you keep layering the things that she teaches on top of it, it's just going to collapse and fall down. So if you're just building it on like oh balsa wood and get bigger and bigger and start putting on boulders and rocks and things, the foundation is just going to collapse. So I want to really spend some time on building our foundation. Um, and week 1, and I'm reading from table of contents, is recovering a sense of safety, where she talks about shadow artists, your enemy within, core negative beliefs, your ally within, affirmative weapons, creative affirmations, tasks, and check-ins. Um, as we've talked about in the discussion before online, and everyone, I think pretty much everyone else who's gone through this book, it's a really tough book to get through all 12 weeks, but we're going to try. But as we talked about last week, we're viewing this as a cookbook and a cookbook recipe for artist stew, as opposed to a baking recipe where cooking is a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Um, and baking is very precise measurements. You have to use specific amount of flour for your cookies to turn out just right. We're making stew here, and it's just going to be a combination of a whole bunch of stuff. This book is just one of many um, to help you build your career as an artist. Um, it could be the baking book for you. However, I'm viewing it as a cooking book for me. I discussed or I tried this book 20 some years ago and just didn't really connect with me. Going back and looking at it again, I'm finding things in it that I do like, and some things I don't like in it. That's the whole purpose of a book club is if we don't like it, we discuss what we like. We don't like if we like it, we talk about what we do like. So anyway, um, some things. So falling back up to cookbook as opposed to baking, Artist Stew is really about making as it says, a thriving art career. Um, there's more to being an artist than making art. There's the financial aspect, there's the creativity, there's the promotions, there's the marketing, there's the growth and inspiration, and there's also you outside the studio, um, and how to thrive as an entire person, holistic approach, I guess some would call it, um, an artist way. And even she talks about it in the book. I'm looking through my notes, is that it is where did it go? I have so many notes. Um, this is about process and not product based. She's not teaching us in this book how to do better with our art. She's not teaching us like a technique on applying paint or etching or how to use your camera. It's about the process that we use as artists to make art. So, taking that into perspective, that this is not about teaching you how to be a technical better artist, it's teaching you how to be a more thoughtful and aware artist about your work. And that is the strong part of week 1, which is getting you to get a firm understanding of who you are and being safe with yourself. Not like don't breathe the fumes or don't. When I was teaching darkroom classes, I was told by the administration that to remind the students not to drink the darkroom chemicals. I don't know why I had to remind them. Because why would anyone go, well, here's a big tray of stuff in a sink. I think I'll just pick up and take a drink out of it. Anyway, I don't know where I was going. Oh, safety, safety. So this is about recovering a sense of safety. And I was talking to somebody about this recently. A few years ago, when I was working in the classroom at a school in rural Ohio, I was there through a visiting artist grant through Ohio Arts Council. And we were working every day. So there's an art teacher in the class, and as the visiting artist to help them come up with the new ideas, um, help teach the art teacher how to teach photography, and we worked on some other community projects. Anyway, we were in the classroom every day for the I was in the classroom every day for the school year, working with grades 3 through 12 in a very small school. And it was interesting to me watching at what ages students stopped being creative when their sensors started kicking in, going, oh, we're supposed to be drawing a horse. This doesn't look like a horse. And then like tearing it up or hiding it or throwing it away or painting over it or whatever. Third graders, everything, nothing looked like a horse, but they all thought it looked like a horse. So in their minds, they were doing a horse and it was great. They were safe to create whatever they thought they were creating. As they start getting older, they start worrying about what their friends might think about their horse, or they start censoring themselves. So there's the whole community sense, and then there's a self sense of safety of making your artwork and showing your artwork. And that's what this chapter is about, is finding the voices in your past, whether they be internal or external, that have caused you to start censoring or editing yourself or thinking you can't do it. Um, and that's one of the exercises in the back of the chapter. She has, Cameron does put writing exercises in the end of each chapter. And one of them, which was assignment or exercise 3, list three list 3 old enemies of your creative self-worth. Please be as specific as possible in doing this exercise. Your historic monsters are the building blocks for your core negative beliefs. So spend some time going back into your past and thinking, why, what is telling me that I can't do this, or I'm not good at this, or this isn't right, or I can't be an artist, I need to have a real job. Where are those voices coming from? And you need to learn to identify where they came from so that you can respond and respect to those. Assignment 6 at the end of chapter 1 is list 3 old champions of your creative worth. This is your hall of champions, those who wish you and your creativity well. So that's the opposite, that's the other side of this assignment. The first one is, where are the voices coming from? They're telling you you can't do this or you shouldn't do this or whatever. And then where are the voices coming from that are saying, go for it, you can do it. It's important to identify or know and recognize where those voices are coming from. Um, she does cover quite a few things in here. I'm going to skip over her concept or discussion on shadow artists because I pretty much feel that everyone in the group has gotten past the shadow artist perspective, which is where you want to be an artist, but you don't think you're good enough to be an artist. So you hang around with artists and kind of not be a parasite, but be a parasite on them. It's like, I want to be an artist, but I'll just hang around with artists. And I'll admit, back when I was in college, um, I was probably a shadow artist. Um, I was a computer science major, but I hung out with I went to Denison University, which is in Granville, Ohio, a small liberal arts school. It was on a hill, and there was a group called the Downhillers. So that was on the top of the hill were the science buildings and physics and all those things. And the Downhillers, which was at the bottom of the hill, was where the art studios were and cinema and all those things. So there's the Downhillers. And most of my time at Denison, I hung out with the Downhillers, which should have told me at that point in time I was in the more creative sector than computer science, but that's a whole different story. Um, and it's funny. I'm still in communications with several people that I was friends with in college, and I was talking to one of them about my path of discovery into the arts, and they said, "Well, yeah, I probably should have told you back then that um, you were making a mistake by beginning computer science." Um, she's like, it was just obvious that you were more creative, and we didn't know why you were trying to do computer science. But in hindsight, I wouldn't be where I am and who I am if I hadn't been through that 15 to 17 years of doing corporate America and computer science jobs. Anyway, so I think everyone's kind of past the shadow artist's perspective because everyone in the group is is actually making art or trying to make art and not thinking about the voices that tell them you can't make art. I think most of us in this group are past that. If you are still having shadow artist perspectives, that's fine. Let's talk about it. Put up in the discussion group. Let's talk about your thoughts and feelings about you think, maybe I can't be an artist or I shouldn't be an artist or I just find hanging out with artists instead. So anyway, skipping over that, even though I went in for like what 3 hours on talking about shadow artists. Um, Protecting the artist child within is our next section in that chapter. Um, it's kind of what we talked about before with the writing assignment. I'm kind of going back and forth in the chapter of who are the monsters who have told you in the past you can't make money as an artist. You can't make art. Your art's not any good. And I said it could be internal or external. Um, so yeah, learning to protect the artist child within is an important part. Um, and somehow, somewhere along the way, as I go through this exercise, whenever someone's telling me I can't do it, I kind of viewed it as a challenge of, well, I'll show you. Like when I was applying for grad school and I was asking people for letters of recommendation, I think pretty much all of them sat me down and said, well, you do realize that only 1% of artists are successful and make a living at it. And I think that was kind of like a test because if you cave at that point in time about wanting to pursue the arts, then you're not ready for grad school. You're not ready to rent a studio if you are still concerned or thinking about things like only 1%. And I don't know where that statistic came from. It could be right, it could be wrong. I don't know. All the artists that I know are successful artists. So I think 100% of people who want to make art are successful. But anyway, but you do have to protect that their child within. And I really can't go through and identify monsters whose voices sit on my shoulder when I have doubts, telling me you can't do this, you can't do this. What do you think you're doing? I don't know. I know that's unusual. A lot of people have family members and friends who try to get them to conform and stick within the normal guidelines of society and jobs. But anyway, you do have to learn to protect that um, and develop some thick skin about declaring who you are. I mean, the lawyer or dentist who walks up and says, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a dentist, I want to be this, those people don't get as much um, I don't want to say negativity, but let's say negativity about their career path than when you say, I want to be an artist. Um, anyway, so you have to learn that part of who you are and build that of confidence and that safety that what you were deciding to do is the right thing for you to do. Um, Next section, your enemy within, core negative beliefs. And it starts off the first paragraph I have highlighted. Most of the time, when we are blocked in an area of our life, it is because we feel safer that way. We may not be happy, but at least we know what we are, unhappy. Much fear of our own creativity is the fear of the unknown. Um, that's pretty strong, and it it kind of carries across your whole career as an artist. It's easy to get stuck in doing what you know and what you do. So when you are a new artist jumping in saying, I want to be an artist, it's tough leaving that comfort behind. I mean, when I left my corporate America job to be to pursue the creative arts, it took a while. I kept going, well, maybe I'll go back to that old, maybe I'll go back to do that. That that was safe. I know what I was doing there. Um, but luckily I did have someone in my life or several people in my life at that time saying, if you've decided to move on, move on. Um, so it's but it is unsafe to make a big change like that. And it could be from someone stepping out of a job, moving into artists, or even artists saying, I want a studio. You've been working at home for forever and actually having to go to a studio and travel and give up your comfort space at home. There are lots of things where you can start building these core negative beliefs within you, or even as an established artist changing your process, changing your technique. If you've been doing abstract paintings and all of a sudden you want to do, well, let's go back to me. I was doing photography. I went to grad school for photography. I was doing installation art. And a few years ago, after my time of working as a visiting artist in the school classroom, I was like, I gave them exercises to do comics and cartoons. Like, I want to do that too. So I started doing comics and cartoons. Um, it was a big shift. I have a whole bunch of cameras over there and refrigerator full of film. I don't use them as much as I used to. I still like taking pictures and photographs and editing things, but um, I get more enjoyment from my creativity release doing um, comics and cartoons. And part of it could be because I know enough about photography that I know that I can pick up any camera and do it. And if I gave myself an assignment, I could do it and come up with something. Um, anyway, so it's the core negative beliefs of when you are doing something different than what you have been doing. And um, the fears and concerns that we build up in our mind of how people and ourselves might talk to us, respond to us, react to us if we say, I'm doing this. For instance, I recently said, I am writing a book. Um, Part of it is you have to make that declaration because if you just keep telling yourself, I want to write a book, you're never going, well, you won't never do it. You probably will never do it. But once you put it out there for and expressing to the world, I'm going to write a book, I now have to start writing the book. And that's one reason I started telling people I'm writing a book is because that makes me commit to myself. I'm going to write the book and make myself safe with the knowledge that I'm starting all over with a new creative endeavor with writing. And that's fine. There's a learning curve, but that's part of the safety zone and trying something new. I love doing new things. I love learning. I have stacks of books all around me all the time. Anyway, another section or another paragraph in that same section in the book. Once we have cleared away the most sweeping cultural negatives, cultural or even inside, we may find we're still stubbornly left with core negatives we have acquired from our families, teachers, and friends, and I'm going to add, and ourselves. Um, which what I was just talking about is you, as you decide to do something new and different, you are going to encounter negativity, and you have to be strong enough to move forward and say, I don't care, I'm doing this. And that's why I really wanted to focus in on this week's chapter one, because if you don't have that strong sense and understanding of when you're trying something new, that you're going to have negative thoughts, internal and external, that you have to fight through and have either real confidence or fake confidence that you're moving forward with it. Um, Moving on. Um, your ally within affirmative words. And this is what I was talking about, where it's the self-talk. It's as you are having these conversations with yourself, what are you saying to yourself? Are you your own going to the writing assignment? identifying your monsters and your champions. Are you a monster or are you a champion for yourself in your self-talk? Um, we all have doubts. We all have thoughts where this isn't, why do I think I can do cartoons? Comics, really? Um, but you just have to move forward and do it. Yeah, the first stuff you're going to do is not going to be good. The scariest thing is if you do something new and you're good at it because you are not challenging yourself or pushing yourself from that. I'm listening to the book Creativity Inc. By the founder of Pixar, and he was talking about when they did Toy Story 3. Um, he said it was so easy. They didn't have any challenges. They did it on schedule. The team was working great. The ideas bubbled through. The thing just worked like it was supposed to. And members of the team were concerned about that. Like, if this went so smoothly, we did not push ourselves. We did not challenge ourselves hard enough to have stumbles and challenges along the way. And I found that a very interesting concept of if you are doing something new and it's easy, did you push yourself enough? Um, just a question to think about. That's part of that self-talk. Excuse me. So your ally within, um, have another paragraph highlighted. And I hate being read to. So for me to be reading to you is even more hateful, but I have to get over that. Um, Affirmations help achieve a sense of safety and hope. When we first start working with affirmations, and this is where we're telling ourselves, I am good enough. If those of you who are of age remember Stuart Smalley on Saturday Night Live's like, people like me, and gosh darn it, I'm good enough. Affirmations are things you need to tell yourself, even if you don't believe it yet. So anyway, affirmations help achieve a sense of safety and hope. When we first start working with affirmations, they may feel dumb, hokey, embarrassing. Isn't this interesting? We can easily and without embarrassment bludgeon ourselves with negative affirmations. I'm not gifted enough, not clever enough, not original enough, not young enough. But saying nice things about ourselves is notoriously hard to do. It feels pretty awful at first. Try these and see if they don't sound hopelessly syrupy. I deserve love. I deserve fair pay. I deserve a rewarding creative life. I am brilliant and successful artist. I have rich creative talents. I am competent and confident in my creative work. It goes back to the whole self-talk thing. It's so easy to tell ourselves negative things. Oh, this isn't going to work, or this is a failure. I'm not good enough at this. Try flipping that and becoming a champion for yourself and saying, um, I deserve a rewarding creative life. I am Brazilian. I'm Brazilian. I am a brilliant and successful artist. Um, a friend of mine in a different program was having a lot of self-doubt about their abilities to do a new career path they were on. And they were coached into standing in front of the mirror every day and saying, I love you to themselves. Um, because it all starts with self-love. It's like if you can look in front of the mirror and say, I love you, and don't focus in on whatever the perceived imperfections are you have, and start seeing yourself with love and confidence and competency. I had to look up the word here. Competency is a game changer in how you are moving forward with your career and your art. Um, People are always talking about the fear of the blank page, writers, painters with the blank canvas. Um, and I don't have a problem with that. I can sit down to a blank page and start typing. I can walk up to a blank canvas and just start throwing paint on it. But a lot of people have a block on starting something on a blank canvas because they don't have the confidence or they don't know where they're going with it. Um, I know some artists will just take paint and just make some type of mark on a canvas just to get started. That has nothing to do with what they're going to paint on it, but it's just getting paint on it and getting the motion going forward is enough to get the momentum started and overcome the fear of the blank page. I will say there is a case in creativity, and I think I talked about this last week, of where I have the fear of the blank page. And that is when when I used to buy expensive journals, that I would say this would be my serious good thoughts will go in this journal. And I open up, this beautiful handmade book I bought in Italy, and I open it up and I can't put a mark in it because I don't know what is the right mark. How am I going to use this? I can't just write and pencil and make little doodles and sketches in it. This is a serious book. This is journal. I can't do that. So I quickly learned to quit buying those and buy composition books because they're 50 cents and they're pretty much indestructible. Anyway, it is a self-talk thing of how to get started on something. And that something could be a painting, a photographic series, a new body of work, moving to a new studio, could be anything. I'm trying to think of things like outside of the creative sector that you can be in fear or you're telling yourself negative thoughts about getting started. Um, anyway, so this chapter one, as I keep saying, is a very important foundation book and a foundation concept in the you have to be strong about who you are with your self-talk and understand where the negative thoughts came from and the positive thoughts come from and use those to build yourself a sense of safety and security of who you are and what you're doing. Um, Everyone in this group is doing the right thing. You are looking at chasing and pursuing your artistic life and a creative life. And the world needs more of that. And whatever you're doing is the right thing for you, as long as you don't talk yourself out of doing something. Um, sure, we all make missteps and go in some wrong directions. I mean, that happens. Um, but you learned along the way. And I was listening to some podcasts and they're talking, oh, I think it was in creative. No, it wasn't Creativity Inc. It was a podcast and they're talking about failure. Maybe it was Creativity Inc. Anyway, um, how you how you address and handle failure is as important as how you handle and address success. Um, I'm kind of going all over the place, but if you know me, that's kind of what I do. That's how I am. I kind of like ping ponging all over the place. Anyway, um, look at my notes. Um, as I'm looking through my notes for chapter one. Um, it's easy to fall into habits and routines, which is the whole you find safety in what you normally do. And one of my most fun photographic projects I did was called Organic Abstractions, which you've seen is 4 foot by 8 foot, a 4 foot by 8 foot prints of organic matter that I have photographed and taken into Photoshop and altered the colors and done all kinds of things with it. So it becomes an abstraction and you no longer sue it as an orange slice or whatever it was. And all that came around from was based on a assignment I had in a photography class years ago, which was find 3 tools in Photoshop you've never used and use them. I had found myself getting into so much of a routine. I bring in a photograph, I'd do the sharpening on it, I would do the levels and curves, and I was just like I was becoming an automatic. I could almost write a macro to do. Excuse me. I could write a macro in Photoshop to timify a photograph, and that was not fun anymore. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna find 3 tools in Photoshop I never use and use them. And that was the starting point for my organic abstraction series that um, I enjoy working on, and I've been exhibiting it and work from it for 10 years, and I continue working on that series, and I continue working on finding tools in Photoshop that I don't use and see how that can be added to the tool set and the process I use for that body of work. Um, Internalized criticism and fear of judgment, and tools to dismantle those. Going back to the tools that Julia Cameron gives us in the beginning of the book, morning pages and artist dates are great ways to get past internalized criticism and fear of judgment. Um, Getting all that stuff out of your head onto paper is a great way to just get it out, because then as you get it out, hopefully you start having a discussion with yourself in your morning pages about, oh, this is horrible, and this is, why did I use crayons for this? I should have used alcohol markers. Why did I do this? And getting all that stuff out and beating yourself up, you also then start supporting yourself. If you don't support yourself when you're doing that, you need to start doing that. Support yourself as you're going through your morning pages. Artist dates, another great way to get out of your head. There's nothing better than going to a museum and making fun of the artwork that's in there. Um, just because it's like, this is in a museum. Surely my stuff could be in a museum someday. Um, Kind of makes you feel good about yourself. It's like, that's on the walls. Okay. Don't do that in an art gallery, because that is more picking on an artist. But I feel it's okay to do it in a museum. Um, I could be wrong. Let's have a discussion about that. Um, what else do I have? Oh, your journey to discoveries on your creative path. Um, have you been a lifelong creative, or is this something that you're transforming into the creative life after a life or years of doing something else? I've talked to several artists who took gap years in their careers. They were artists and took years off to take care of things inside their personal life, taking care of sick parents or spouses or partners or whatever, that takes you out of your ability to get into the creative routines and patterns, and then they come back to it. Um, I'd like to hear stories about people who have been transformed in their lives as they make a step either into the creative life or back into the creative life, as well as people who have been lifelong creatives. Um, and as we, one of the things as I explore storytelling, I love the hero's journey. If you're not familiar with it, you can look it up. But the hero's journey is basically the story model that every story uses. The person who has a day-to-day normal grind, um, wants more from their life, leaves home, finds a mentor who guides them, discovers new things. They go out and see the world, learn new things, have struggles, champion the struggles, and come back home a different person. Um, so my question to you, one of the questions is, who is your Gandalf? So if you're familiar with Lord of the Rings, Gandalf was um, the mentor or guide for the Fellowship of the Rings. Who's your Obi-Wan Kenobi? If you're a Star Wars fan, I mean, Obi-Wan was the George Lucas, who wrote Star Wars, heavily credits the hero's journey model for him writing Star Wars, and Obi-Wan is definitely the mentor character to Luke Skywalker. Um, for those of you who are Wizard of Oz fans, Glinda the Good Witch was the mentor and guide for helping Dorothy leave home, overcome challenges, and come home with a stronger, better understanding of who she is. So, who are your Gandalf's, Obi-Wan's, Glenda's? Um, Recognize who the mentors were in your life. This has nothing to do with chapter one. It's just part of the discussion. Um, and I'll end with this concept: a mind once stretched can never return to its original state. They always talk about, the motivational speakers use that in terms of a rubber band. Rubber band, once stretched, will never come back to its original shape. It'll, having been stretched out, it's always be a little bit bigger than it was to begin with. Um, as you discover and try new things in your life, um, um, the student who I taught drawing to a few years ago texted me a picture of a painting. She's now trying painting, and because she's been doing physical drawing and digital drawing on her tablet, and now decides she wanted to do painting. And she was so excited to be learning painting, and she's pretty much learning on her own and with YouTube. I think she might be learning something in class. I'm not sure. But her mind, now that she has done painting, when she goes back to her digital, she will see it differently because of what she had to learn and experience by doing painting. She also experimented with watercolors. So always trying new things is going to stretch your mind and it's going to come back to you, and you will be a different person. So, I mean, it's kind of like a little micro, tiny hero's journey. Um, but anyway, so a whole lot of stuff talking about this week. The artist way, like I said, I'm using as a cookbook. I'm reading or listening to, I think, 4 or 5 books right now. One of them is How to Be Everything by Emily Wapnick. She founded Putty Like, I think it's Putty Like, um, and a community of multi-potentialites, which are people who have multiple interests um, throughout their life. And I definitely consider myself a multi-potentialite. And in her book, she talks about how to survive. And and as it says, a guide for those who still don't know what they want to be when they grow up. I've turned 61 next month, and I still don't know what I want when I grow. I don't know what to do when I grow up, and I love that. Um, anyway, so that's week one. It's important that you build that strong sense of safety because that is the base where everything is going to be built on, either as an artist or just in life. The people who told you um, you can't do this or you can't do that or you're too ugly or too whatever, you need to get those monsters out of your head and get the champions in your head. Um, and as you're building yourself up on these foundations, using this as the template for now, having that strong foundation of safety of who you are and what you're doing and why, and having that confidence is so important to being able to move forward and grow as your creative you. Next week, we'll be talking about chapter 2 in The Artist Way, and it's stuck, recovering a sense of identity. So I'm sure we have tipped a little bit into that chapter in today's discussion, um, but we'll find out. So um, put some comments in there about your thoughts on sense of safety and self-talk and monsters and champions and self-talk. It's all about self-talk. So anyway, see you next week, and feel free, like I said, to put comments on here and let's have some discussions about what your thoughts are. And go ahead and celebrate your champion wins for this week. Whether you are learning a new process or you got a painting or drawing or something done. Um, put it in there. Let's hear your successes and let's celebrate everyone's successes and wins as we are building ourselves into a thriving art career. Okay, Stew mates, that's it for this week. Um, See you on Artist Stew, and make sure if there are friends and folks and artists you think would be good members of Artist Stew, go ahead and invite them in to the club, group, whatever. Invite them in. Let's keep building this community to be stronger and supportive of as we move forward to thriving art careers. See ya.